Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader. I'm done.
Keep going with
Insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Mobile, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
First off, please, Johnny, leave that in there. That'll throw people off so much. In case you're wondering, Scott is battling head cold.
Hey, listen. Hey, guys, failure is not an option. You play through, right? You play through.
Unless you're contagious.
No, I'm not contagious.
So I have a story, Scott.
Please.
I've specifically saved the story for this podcast. And you guys are not going to believe this story, and it's 100% true. If I go up missing or dead in the next short period of time, it's the person I'm about to talk about.
You've got my attention.
I'm going to go ahead and put that out
there. You've got my attention.
So and you know a little bit of this. So we, about a year ago, this is just one of those things like you deal with agency owners. There's really not a moral to this story.
Right.
So about a year ago, we had, we went under contract to buy an agency that we bought in January.
Sure.
And the agency owner, the day after he signed the LOI, reached out to me and he said, hey, I have this producer I've been interviewing and I can't in good faith hire him knowing that I'm about to sell to you. Would you like to interview him? I'm like, awesome. Yeah, I'm always up for talking to producers. This person had experience as a wholesale underwriter. And so a couple things going on there. One, I'm all about hiring somebody in a retail shop that has wholesale underwriting experience because that gives me a little bit of an insight to that market and how that works. But also I feel like the wholesaler that is willing to go be a retail agent and cold call and stuff, like that's very few and far in between. So I was super interested. So I interviewed the guy on Zoom about a year ago. There was something I couldn't put my finger on. You know, like some people, Ryan, I'm sure you can agree with this. There's some people that you can get a feel for their personality on Zoom. Some you like, I really need to talk to you in person.
Hey, Bradley, pin in that for 1 second. Yeah. Guys, this is Hanley's Hot Takes. One of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Ryan Hanley. How are you, Ryan?
I'm very well.
Awesome. Go ahead.
He's on the edge of his seat.
Yeah, because I wanted him to, be able to interject and all. Yeah.
Scott hates when the guests talk before.
No. I didn't want somebody to be like, "Oh, it was this guy."
So
Scott told me to shut up until I was introduced, so I wasn't going to talk.
I've seen it though before. We have guests on that don't know and they'll say something during it, and he's like, I could just see him over there steaming. But
no. One time I said, "Have I told you to talk yet?"
Who was that?
I don't remember, but I did say that.
It was probably somebody like really mild mannered, like a Billy Wagner or somebody. Anyway. So I met with Carrie Wallace, and she was like, do not hire anybody else between now and you close. It's going to mess your numbers up.
Sure.
So I called the guy, and I was like, hey, man, I told him what happened. I was like, I can't hire anybody else. It's going to mess my numbers up, EBITDA, all that stuff. Just circle back with me after the first year. And this was someone I was interested in, but there was something I couldn't put my finger on. And if I try to discern, Ryan, when I'm hiring someone, do they want a job or do they want to work here? You know what I mean? And that is selfish, but like I want someone who wants to be here. If you just want an insurance job, there's a million other agencies I need you to work at over portal. And this particular person lived in another state and wanted to live at the beach. The agency we were buying was at the beach, so that was part of his reason. But anyway, so told him thanks but no thanks, circle back with me the first year. So in about April to May, I think May of this year, he reaches back out and he's like, hey, I'm interested. I'm working for another agency now, national agency. I hate it. I want to work for you. I want to be at the beach, yada, yada. I was like, okay. So we did another interview. Still, man, there was just something, like, I'm a decent reader of people. I go with my gut a lot, but like there was something I couldn't put my finger on. And I remember telling Natasha, I was like, I want to look this dude in the eyes. Like, I need to sit across the table and let's just get down to brass tacks, right? And so I told him, I was like, look, man, he's 5 hours away from me. I was like, I want to talk to you in person. It's the last step of our process. Anytime I've abandoned my hiring process, it's bit me in the butt. And I don't, I'm pretty, like, I don't abandon it. Like, we stick to it. And so I was like, here's the problem. I can't, before, and we were talking last year, we were talking about maybe meeting halfway in between. I was like, dude, I've got so much stuff going on. I got a newborn at home. I got all this, like, I don't have time to devote a full day to driving. If you really want this job, I'm going to need you to come here. I didn't make him come here. I did not. I
drove down here yesterday.
I didn't make him come here. It was not, and I told him the job is not promised just because you drive here. Like, granted, I'll take that into account, but like, you're just gonna have to come here. Like, and there's a million other agencies you can work for that, hey, will probably pay more than me, right? And I told him, if for some reason it doesn't work out and you want to be at the beach, I can find somewhere to send you that's at the beach, right? I've probably placed more employees at other agencies than I have here. So anyway, so he's like, that's no problem. I got a cousin that lives close to you. I haven't seen him in a couple years. I'll come stay with him, stay the weekend, come see you on Monday. I'm like, perfect. So he gets here on Monday, and I'm just going to say it. We were pretty sure he was on drugs. Like, there was something going on. And
like
I had
Booker sugar, like bouncing off the walls, or
no?
Oh,
the opposite.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Maybe pot. I don't know. And maybe I'm an asshole, and it wasn't that. Maybe maybe. It was, but there was three of us interviewed him. All three of us picked up on it immediately. And so we and this story gets kind of crazy. So I had to stretch to get the interview to 45 minutes.
Right.
And I felt bad. I'm like, this dude drove 5 hours. I'm only going to interview him 20 minutes. Like, I had to stretch. And every question, man, and this is like interview advice for people. Maybe you're a young person getting in the industry. Like, it was like, hey, what do you like to write? And the answer was like, oh, everything. I'm like, no, but like, what's your favorite? Oh, I like to write everything. Like, there was no, every question was like that. There was no like, you know what I'm saying?
Just
like
general.
Yeah. And
Bradley, how old, just for context? What do we think? What's 40, the range of age?
40, okay. Somewhere in there. Yeah. Okay. And so, to be clear, I didn't ask him his age, but I think, 40.
Yeah.
So, everything. And I'm like, this dude, like, you've been at a wholesaler. Like, you should, okay, I like to write everything, but my favorite thing is this. Sure. You know, like, it's like going to a restaurant. My biggest pet peeve at restaurants is what's good. Oh, everything's good. Like, you're not a good salesperson. Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, every question was like that. There was no, like, I came away not knowing anything about the guy.
So you gave him the old, we'll be back in touch?
Yeah. Yeah. So everything was like that. You know, we had to stretch the interview. Really, I felt bad for the dude. Let me back up. So one of the wholesale underwriters that he worked at, I called that particular office.
Uh-oh.
And they're like, we've never heard of this guy.
Oh, no.
And they were like, and it was like 10 years ago that he worked at this specific office, and he had worked at some more since. But they were like, we've never heard of this guy. The only thing it could be is that it was so long ago that nobody here worked with him, or he was an intern, right? So I didn't think anything of it. Okay, whatever. So we fast forward to the interview. We ended the interview, and I was like, hey, man, we'll be in touch, right? So that was a Monday. All right, Tuesday, I get here, and I have a really busy day. Okay. And I want to be like super clear that I have important emails in my inbox every single day that I don't get to until the afternoon. Right. There's, and so I get an email from him, 8 a.m. Monday morning or Tuesday morning, the very next day. It's like, hey man, really appreciate meeting you. I'm ready to make a decision. I'm ready to move. Let me know when you guys come to a decision. And I did not answer that email. One, because I was really busy. I did see it. I put it in my starred, which is my stuff I have to address by the end of the day. And what I was doing is there is a wholesale underwriter located at the beach, a wholesale broker located at the beach that needs underwriters like really bad, that pays really well. And I was going to introduce them to him to them and say, hey, look, I can't, I feel bad that you drove here. I can't hire you. However, I'm going to send you over to this place.
So then you need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to make more money. You're going to be at the beach. They're a great partner of ours. You and I know each other. I try to always, whether I'm firing somebody or not helping somebody, especially when they make it that far through the process, set them up somewhere else. And you know how this business is, Ryan. Like if you have a license, somebody will hire you. Right?
Yep.
And so about an hour and a half later, after the first email, I get an email from him that says, well, I guess a no response gives me my answer. Have a good life.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And I'm like, and part of the reason I'm telling the story is, one, it's a crazy story, but two, I kind of, in case this guy listens to this, I kind of want to give him some advice that like, you don't burn a bridge. You don't operate that way.
Well, I mean, is he like your mom that, your mom will be like, send you a text and you don't respond in 3 minutes and you're like,
not to seem arrogant, but like you're burning
your mom.
You're burning a bridge with somebody that knows a lot of people. And I'm about to get to that part in a minute. This gets better. So when I got that, I was like, all right, well, screw you.
Did you respond to that?
I didn't. No, I don't.
No, that's smart. No, that's smart.
I deleted the email.
Yeah.
I'm like,
why?
I'm like, okay, I'm not going to help you now.
Sure.
So didn't think anything of it. 45 days later, 45 days later, my agency is sitting there with more 5-star Google reviews than any business in the state, any agency in the state of Alabama, with no 1-star reviews. And I get a 1-star review that comes through. Guess who from? This guy. So it's our first 1-star Google review. And I'm going to read it to you. And it gets better.
Would Google not take it off? I mean,
they wouldn't. No, I had a 1-star Google review before from someone who was also not a customer, and they did take that one down. That person.
1-star Google reviews are not a bad thing,
by
the
way.
world.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
it kind of substantiates.
It doesn't. Yeah. It didn't bother me. In fact, I have been thinking that too many 5-star onlys.
Yes.
So
statistically, people look for somewhere between a 4.7 and a 4.8 because if they see all 5s, they assume it's rigged.
Right.
So people will look for like a 4.7 to a 4.8. When I was big into SEO, I read that stat, and it's because no business that's like genuine, and this is nothing about your business, whatever, but according to people's perception, no business genuinely should have 5 stars, right?
Yeah. So,
and I'm kind of that guy. When I look at something and it's 5 stars, I'm like, is this some bullshit?
And ours are all real. It's just, that's just kind of how it happened, So I
get you're an amazing insurance agency owner, an amazing insurance team, so it makes sense.
It's nothing to do with me, but so I get this. I get this Google review. It says, "Beware." I drove 4 hours to meet with Bradley and his team, only to be ghosted and never heard from them again. He didn't have the decency and respect to contact me afterwards. He is a man of low moral values and character. Do not do business with these people. So
he signed his name to that?
Yeah.
Dang, that's strong as new rope, man.
So it gets better.
I thought it'd be from like a ghost account or something.
It gets better. And that's how the first one I got removed. Yeah. It was from a fake account.
Sure.
But I knew who it was. He's actually running for mayor of Mobile this year.
Nice.
But
not to name any names.
So I responded and said, "Hello, name. After our job interviews with candidates, there's typically some communication. However, after we decided not to hire you, I was in touch with the CEO of a local agency near the beach, as I knew that's where you wanted to live. I was working to set up an interview for you with them, which is why we didn't respond to your initial follow-up email the morning after your interview. Unfortunately, after receiving your extremely unprofessional second email later that same day, I chose not to respond. I didn't feel the tone of your email warranted a reply, and I could no longer refer to you, my friend, for the interview. sorry things turned out this way, but I wish you the best in the future. Now, I could have went a lot of ways with that. I decided just to go,
Yep.
So
right down the middle.
The part that bothered me is this guy sat and stewed over this for 45 days.
And here comes his response.
So 2 days after that, this is the good part.
Took him 2 days to think about it.
2 days after that,
Yeah.
I get a message.
Pipe
And I
bomb
remember
in the
when I
mail.
said you're messing with somebody, burning a bridge with somebody that knows a lot of people. I get a message from an agency owner, podcast listener that I don't know in another state. Hey, Bradley, I'm interviewing this person who says he used to work for you.
Pathological liar.
Can I get a reference?
Yep.
And I said, and I was thinking, guy, like who's a guy? Like, so I've had two guys that used to work for me on the insurance side that don't work for me anymore. One is a D1 track coach now. The other one was 65 years old and retired 2 months ago. And I'm like, a guy who? What? I was like, what's the name? And he sends me the name. It's this guy.
That's amazing. That
And
is amazing.
So
This dude
That is
needs to be
amazing.
on the FBI's most watched list or something.
I said, call me. So
Call me.
I tell him the story. Like, and I would never prevent someone from getting a job that I thought.
No, in this case,
know-
you'd be doing the person a disservice if you didn't tell
Well, I
them.
had to tell him the story. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if he would have just reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm interviewing this guy. He says he interviewed you too," I would have said, "Yeah, we just didn't think it was a good," like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because I may be wrong. And so I told him the story, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to hire him. I appreciate you letting me know." And I was like, "Send me his resume." So he sends me the resume. So he had on there that he worked for the agency, the agency that I purchased, not Portal, which he never did. It was in that time frame of, and so, so I tell the guy, I tell the guy the story. He's like, "Well, I'm not going to say anything to him." Well, then of course, what's he do? I talked to Bradley, and he said,
Oh,
no.
no.
I'm like, dude, oh no.
Hey,
So-
Ryan.
So I'm like carrying my pistol now, everywhere I go.
Hey.
And so, hang on, I'm not done.
Cool.
So
But wait,
so
there's
the
more.
guy rebuts him and says, "No, I did work there," and sends him a job offer. It was a real job offer. It was from the agency owner I bought, and he had sent it to him prior to me buying the agency.
A job offer.
And so the guy that sold me the agency, I sent him my offer to buy it, and then he said no, and then his dad had a heart attack, and he realized there was more to life, and so kind of on a whim, he decided to sell it to me. So that's why the dude had an offer. Things just happen fast. So he sends this offer, and I tell the agency owner, I'm like, ask him for his tax return,
Right.
ask him for his W-2, ask for his 1099, and then
Why would you even, at that point, why are you even questioning?
yeah,
You just say
yeah,
thanks, but no thanks.
But anyway, so thoughts and reactions to that.
So, Ryan, let me first say, Ryan, do you know how pissed off I am right now that Bradley did not hire this guy? Do you realize the stories we would have would be endless for this podcast if you had hired this guy?
Oh my God, that
we're
guy
about to
would
bring in a
blow
third chair
your
and, let him
agency
sit here.
apart.
Oh my!
He would
gosh.
blow your agency apart. Your
Oh my
agency would be that'd be a nightmare. I'll tell you, the only part of it's an amazing story. Love
Oh
it.
my gosh.
The only part that I take umbrance with you is your feeling of necessity of justifying the fact that you didn't respond to an email in the morning.
I know.
You don't have to respond to shit. This is I have a major problem with this with people. If I send you an email, right? I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't pick up the phone and call you. Since I didn't pick up in the phone and call you, the implication of me sending a digital text-based communication to you is I will get a response in due time according to your schedule.
Correct.
Yeah.
Otherwise, pick up in phone.
Correct.
I hate
Yeah.
this about the way our culture has become, where you're running a business.
Right.
You have multiple different things going on.
If
You have no requirement to respond to someone's email. It could go days. Now, granted, there's a cultural you know, trying to be a nice person, get back to people for sure. And if it's been a couple of days, hey, I'm going to get back to you. I'm just swamped, whatever. I'll do that.
End of the day is totally acceptable under every
Totally.
circumstance.
24 hours at a minimum.
Yeah.
Unless you are buying something from someone and you have a problem, I think 24 hours is too long today for customers.
Yeah.
Right. But for any non-customer related communication, you have zero requirements inside of 24 hours. Zero.
It just goes to show you that this person doesn't know how to handle themselves. Like they don't understand. Like if you're going to go off on me after not responding to you for an hour and a half, what are you going to do when customers are
that guy's pathological, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He's due to watch.
I'm actually that's psychopaths exist.
Yeah, that's right.
They exist. They're 3% of the population.
100%.
So like they're absolutely out there, and you just ran into one.
I'm kind of thinking it's not the end of the story.
Yeah, probably not. I want to give you a very quick, my 1-star review at Rogue. Also only had one.
Oh boy.
Quick, very quick. Certainly not as much drama. I had a guy reach out to me from a local BNI chapter that I was a part of back in my Murray Group days. So we're talking a decade plus earlier. I was part of this BNI chapter, like 2009, 2010. This is 2021. And he says, hey, we'd love to have you come visit. And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm really busy. I don't really do business locally. Like, it's not really a great fit. He's like, well, just come. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to come. Like, I'm a national agency. Like, I don't just do business locally. And frankly, at that point, I wasn't even really selling. I was like, it doesn't really make sense for me to spend my time there. So he then goes on, somehow gets my text number, texts me a couple times. At this point, I'm just not responding because I've already given him my answer. I've already said, hey, I don't think it's a good fit. I'm not going to come. He emails me 2 more times, right, over the course of like 2 months. And all of a sudden I get the same notification. You've gotten a 1-star review and it's, you know, same thing. Ryan Hanley does not respond, blah, 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 over not visiting a BNI chapter. Right. I was like, and so then I text him back and I was like, hey, got your Google review. Just so you know, there's no chance I'm showing up now. And anyone who asks me about the BNI chapter, I'm going to tell them this story.
Sure.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Well,
like I wasn't going to post anything publicly, but
like
people are out of their friggin' minds.
That day, it just shows me that you have no idea what I do on a daily basis, because like if that person knew all of the stuff that I was dealing with that morning that you deal with when you have a bunch of employees who have issues and customers and stuff, they would completely understand.
100%.
Like
dude, it's less than that. It's less than that. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have shit going on. None of it matters. Like, have some, like, if someone says no, it's no. Sorry. Like, your bitter vindictiveness, the fact that you haven't done therapy and you still hate your dad because he didn't coach you enough in baseball or whatever, like, none of that is me. Not, you know what I mean? Like, I could have literally nothing going on and just no is no. Move on.
Hey,
like, you know what I mean? Like,
and also it's like, now I wonder, like, did he ever even work at that office I called? Since nobody there knew him.
Probably not.
He's a pathological liar, dude. He's lied like 8 times.
Yeah.
Hey, Rand, play the video, play the audio. We got to get Ryan's reaction to this, and we got to move on to Ryan's hot takes in the insurance industry because I got tons of questions for him. Guys, this is a audio clip we wanted Ryan to hear.
And it's a little long, so be patient with it.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is from the All In podcast with Jason Calacanis, just for citing purposes.
I can't hear it.
He's getting to it. It's probably because you got your headphones in, maybe. I don't know. We tested this beforehand.
This is the largest business podcast in the world right now. Just to give context to the scope.
There's $500 billion to $1 trillion. There's $500 billion to $1 trillion of real estate value on the Florida coastline. The average Florida homeowner historically has been paying about 1% of the real estate value in insurance. So now, if your real estate is likely to be wiped out 1 out of every 20 years instead of 1 out of every 500 years, the cost of insurance gets to the point that it is untenable for most people to pay for their insurance. Florida has a state-backed reinsurance provider called the Florida Hurricane Catastrophe Fund. And this fund issues debt to meet its coverage demands because it reinsures insurance companies in order to incentivize them.
The bank says you need to get insurance if I'm going to lend you the money to buy the home. So then a bunch of insurers need to decide that they're willing to underwrite that area. And then when they give you that insurance, they then want to lay that risk off and go to reinsurance.
That's right. And what's happening is they would normally underwrite that risk. They would say, you're going to lose the value of your home every 100 years or every 200 years. But now the models are showing, because of the frequency of these sorts of hurricane events and the severity of the hurricane events, that maybe you'll lose the value of your home once every 20 years or once every 30 years. And no consumer is going to be willing or able to pay that much for the insurance on their home. So the state, over the last several years, has had to step in and effectively subsidize the insurance. And now the state reinsurance vehicle only has statutory liability maximum of $17 billion in a single hurricane season. Now, I think they got lucky with Milton today, but some were estimating that the Milton losses were going to be in excess of $100 billion, bigger than Katrina. It's likely, as of this morning, the reinsurance websites are all saying it's probably a $40 to $50 billion loss event, which still exceeds the state's reinsurance capacity. Sure. So you can kind of think about Florida State's reinsurance thing being effectively bankrupt. It doesn't really have the capacity to underwrite the insurance anymore. So the real question for everyone is the federal government going to have to step in and start to support the price of homes? Because if they don't...
Well, it's a terrible precedent to set, because if you do it for Florida, then you'll have to do it in Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi.
And California with wildfires.
And California
fires,
and Arizona. Yeah. And Texas. There's going to be no way to create a clear demarcation of who gets a bailout and who doesn't. I mean, which will mean that everybody will get a bailout or nobody gets a bailout.
That's right.
And if everybody gets a bailout, and if you think about how systematically unpredictable, at least in the southern states, the weather is, you're going to be talking hundreds of billions of dollars a year probably.
The total value of all mortgages and homeowner mortgages in Florida is $454 billion. And those people typically have, a debt to equity ratio probably on the 50 to 80% range. So if the value of your home dips by 25% because everyone starts selling their homes, leaving Florida, or they can't get insurance, then the people that live in Florida, most of them have their net worth tied up in their home, are going to see their personal net worth wiped out or cut in half. So it's not just an economic problem, it's a social problem that now there are so many people that have put their entire net worth into their home. And the value of their home is written to a point that it no longer makes sense given the frequency at which homes are going to get destroyed.
Well, that's probably the reason why they'll have to do it, because they'll...
Exactly.
But then that calculation will have to happen for every single homeowner in every single state.
So you kind of get the gist of it.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Go ahead, Ryan.
So my first thought on this particular story is that they missed, and so you guys know, the second voice that you heard in that clip was Chamath Palihapitiya. He was the 7th employee at Facebook.
And these are all smart guys.
Super scary,
yeah, multi-billion dollar CEO, founder, investor. Very, very smart.
Yep.
Okay. The part in that discussion that I think they missed, and I don't think they missed it intentionally. I think they just didn't get to it because it was one of many stories that you talked about on that particular episode, was inflation. Yeah. Most of the reason that we cannot rebuild these structures for the insured value is because the cost of materials and labor has gone up so much over the last 5 years in particular, and particularly during the Biden-Harris administration and their horrible economic policies, that you can no longer rebuild homes for what they were initially valued at.
Right.
We're purchasing homes in places, and the rebuilding cost is going up so much every year. And we know this from, just try putting in an inflation adjustment endorsement onto a homeowner's policy today. You look at the value the next year, and it didn't even match the inflation endorsements that we've been using for decades.
Right.
It used to be, hey, you throw a 5% or 10% inflation endorsement on a policy and you thought you were doing a great thing for your customer. Today, you're not even capturing what the rise in cost is. And that, unfortunately, what this is going to push us towards is a more socialized insurance environment, most likely out of necessity, which is horrible for us, horrible for the consumers, horrible for our economy and our country, but because no one wants to address the core issue. And I don't mean that to be like, doom and gloom, but until we address inflation, this particular issue will never be solved in a way that is conducive to consumers, to lenders, to insurance, the insurance community. There is no solve that is positive until we address inflation, until we can rebuild homes for reasonable rates that makes sense. This is an impossible problem to solve. And people want to blame the climate and whatever. I mean, look, those are bigger problems than I know how to address. It seems like right now we're in a warming turn in our planet. Do we have something to do with it? Sure. Our hurricanes, and different weather events going to be more prominent. Seems like that's what's in our future for certainly the time being. But none of that matters if we don't get inflation under control, because if it costs twice as much to rebuild a home 10 years later, you can't insure for that. And if you do insure for it, you can't cover the cost as a consumer.
Right. And I think the other big piece they missed too was the litigation in Florida. You know, the main reason, in my opinion, the main reason you don't have State Farm, Allstate, Safeco farmers in Florida is mostly the litigation, not the hurricanes. Yeah, the 83% of the insurance litigation in the United States of America is in the state of Florida. But they only, and you may think, well, Florida has hurricanes, so there's more claims, therefore there's going to be more litigation. But they only account for 8% of the claims nationally. So if you take 100% and divide it by 8, you come up with 100% and divide it by 50 states, you get 2% if it was evenly distributed. So it is, the claims are inflated there, but not so much so to justify an 83% litigation of that's the big problem with Florida. And DeSantis, they did introduce some legislation a few years ago. They got rid of AOB. Yeah. They've got rid of a lot of things, and we haven't seen a benefit from that yet. But the reason I think that is because when you make a change for it to affect insurance pricing, it's going to take a few years. And that's the main thing I said. I made a video about it when DeSantis did that, and I said, can the consumer be patient enough to see the benefit of this and also keep him in office? Yeah. Because if somebody else gets elected and they undo it, you're gonna hit the reset button on it.
Yeah. Later in that clip, they do, Chamath kind of as a passing comment does mention the tort reform that DeSantis put in place to try to address some of that.
Yeah.
But I think you're bringing up a broader issue that extends outside of Florida as well. Back in 2020, there was a 244 or something close to that $1 million EPLI claim. And it had to do with harassment of female employees.
Yeah.
And I read the case because that number was so huge, and New Jersey is very close to New York and whatever. And we wrote that insurance I wrote. By all accounts, these guys were guilty as hell. It seemed like a nightmare for the women, and they absolutely deserve to be compensated for the shit environment that they were forced to work in. So I'm not justifying please don't take what I'm about to say as anything. Those women, by all accounts, deserved to get paid, no doubt. However, of the 244 million, 20 was compensatory, and the other 220, and I'm going to miss the freaking word, which is where the judge just tacks on what he feels is necessary.
Right.
Right. So think about that. Like, there was no assault. It was only verbal environmental stuff. Right. And 11 women got 20 million per the policy and what was compensatory with state laws. And then another 220 million put on top of that for discretionary, whatever it is. Now, granted, I am positive that they didn't have 240 million in insurance coverage.
Right.
But their entire limit was maxed out on every policy that would respond to that, to that account. And when you think about these mega judgments, these mega liability judgments are destroying our system. They're just nuclear decisions, destroying our system, because you're seeing them again. And look,
a lot of them are coming out of Georgia.
Georgia, California, New York, New Jersey.
The next hot spot. Georgia's the next hot spot.
There's some similarities in those states.
Yeah.
They're all blue.
Hey, I was going to give you and Bradley.
Not to get political.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
no, I think, look, we're X number of days. How many days are we away? We're less than 20 days away from the election.
Sure.
I think that, I think, and I don't want to make this into a political discussion. However, I'm going to put this pin on the political part. I think that our society has done itself a disservice by the we shouldn't talk politics discussion. It's hard. it can be done in a very agreeable way. It can be done in a way where you don't have to yell at your family members. You don't have to hate someone because they think differently than you. But I think that part of the reason why we as a society have become so bipolar is because we don't have these discussions anymore, right? Like we used to have very friendly discussions. One of the biggest episodes of my podcast that I've ever had was a conversation that I had with Eric Garcia called How to Disagree About Politics with a Friend and Still Love Each Other. That was the title of the podcast. And we talked for an hour and a half about politics. And he and I disagree in a lot of places. I love Eric Garcia to death. I think he's one of the best humans I've ever met.
You guys presented together at the thing.
Yeah, we presented together at Cass's Indie Tech thing. And like, my point is, we have to get back to being able to have these discussions because what happens is no one wants to bring up the fact that New York, New Jersey, California, and Illinois, 4 of the biggest blue states in the country, are all 4 of the largest nuclear verdict states that we have. And that permeates, as we all know. It's not like those judgments just stay in that state. All that has to get spread out throughout the country. And now you have people throughout the country paying higher rates for liability and higher rates for their insurance because these states have decided they're going to allow judges to jack up compensation and for unjustified reasons. And I'm not taking that particular case out of the thing. Maybe 20 million was enough. Maybe 20 million and some change. Is 240 million a justifiable response to a shitty workplace? Like I said, those women deserve to get paid. It seemed like a bad place to work, but I just think we have to be careful with this stuff because then all of a sudden it becomes, well, let's socialize liability. Let's socialize this. Let's have the government control that. And it's, that's how we get into these places we can't back out of.
And on the political thing too, to your point, I actually mentioned this on the last podcast, is I heard a quote recently, isolation breeds hate.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering who said that, it was the great American philosopher Kid Rock, who also said, buy a yacht with a flag that says chillin' the most.
Yep.
Do you know the rest of that line?
No.
Okay, I'm not going to say it on the air. And it's true. It's like, if you don't converse with people that you disagree with, you almost demonize them in your head to a worse position than they actually are.
Yeah.
Like every time I've talked to a friend who, I lean right, but I'm pretty down the middle for a white dude from Southern Alabama, right? Especially compared to a lot of my peers. And anytime I talk to someone, have a conversation with someone who has a different political view than me, whether it's like Eric Garcia, who I've had discussions with, Zach Gould, I remember a conversation me and Zach had about politics. And I always come away not agreeing with their position, but understanding where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And it humanizes, and it's like I remember a conversation I had with Zach. He probably doesn't even remember it, that I remember thinking, I don't think he's right, but I understand if these things he thinks are true, why he feels that way. You know what I mean?
And what you find is most people want exactly the same thing you want.
Right.
They just have a different set of facts or a different viewpoint or different life experiences, and none of those things are wrong. And those conversations that we used to have around the Thanksgiving table or at the bar over a couple beers or whatever, what they did was they allowed you to say, you know what? Like you said, I don't agree with this person maybe on all these things, but geez, this one point they made over here, I'm actually not completely against that. I'm okay with that thing. That would be all right with me. Like, we start to find that melting pot in the middle where we all actually operate, right?
Right.
Most of us, 90% of the country is like slightly to the right, slightly to the left. And then all we hear from are these two sides. And then all those people that are slightly on the right or slightly on the left, we don't want to be classified as that thing all the way on the other side or all the way on the side that we're on. So we don't say anything. Yeah. And none of these conversations happen. And I'll tell you, I'll give you an example from our industry and how it works in real life outside of politics. I was accused by someone of being part of an insurance mafia, quote unquote, very, very aggressive and negative comment. That
as in you're in the
somehow,
club and I'm not in the club kind of thing?
Yeah, like I'm in this club and I won't let other people in the club. and other people aren't getting opportunities because I won't let them in the club.
I bet I know
and then
who that
there was,
was.
it wasn't just me. There was like a group of people, and actually you two were in it as well. And I was like, I hear the list of names that they list off.
You're gonna tell me
and I was
when we get
like,
off the air.
yeah, I was like, I hear the words that are coming. This person approached me at a conference, right? Because their comment started with "You're a lot nicer than I thought you'd be." That's how the comment started, and I was like, "Oh, here we go!" Right? And then they barf all this at me.
Yeah. Well,
and I said to them, I go, I need to
demonize people in Facebook groups too, based on how they communicate. Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, can we? I said, hey, give me 2 seconds to get through these other people, and I want to talk to you about this. So the guy stood over here, got through the 2 or 3 other people after the keynote, whatever, thanks, whatever. And then I came back to him and I said, what? Explain this to me. And he goes down this list, and like, you guys were on it, and a couple of our other friends were on it, and like, and telling me all these things that we do, right? That we do to like cut people out, and we only promote certain companies and blah, 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 blah. And sure enough, this was an InsurTech CEO who felt like he wasn't getting his run, and but it's all good. So I talked to the guy, I hear him, and I said, here, I want to let you know something, man. I wake up every day with full-blown anxiety because I'm running an insurance agency. On my podcast, I talk about the things that are causing me anxiety because it's like in therapy. I was like, if I haven't talked about your tool, it's one, because this is the first time you and I have ever met. I've only tangentially heard of your tool. I said, and 2, like, I only know the things that I've run into. Like, there's no mafia. I go, I want you to know, like, Bradley and Scott, I have zero control over what they say or do. Like, they're my boys, but they are their own. There's no, like, there's no, yeah, there's no cabal.
No control over what he says.
Yeah, it's like, have you heard Scott on his podcast? Do you think I'm like telling him he can't talk about your tool? Do you think he would listen? If I told him, guess what he would do? He'd do an entire podcast about it just to spite me because I told him to do something. I was like, there's no cabal. I was like, we're friends. Like, we all kind of become friends over time because we have similar viewpoints. And I go, but I'll tell you, we fight is just as much as we don't fight over different things. We all have different vantage points. And at the end, he shakes my hand and he goes, oh man, I'm really sorry. And I said, look, I'm sorry too that I made you feel that way. Like, I don't want my persona to come off. I know all the people you mentioned, dude, all they're trying to do is help. But my point is, he was sitting in his little isolated thing. It was the first conference he'd ever been to, and he had never been out in the community. So he like built up all this bitterness and anxiety and tension and hate. And he literally just had no idea what he was talking about.
You make assumptions, right? And, and there's this, this actually speaks to something I want to talk about. There's this trend in the industry amongst, and I talked about this at Cass's thing briefly. There's this trend in the industry with not only newer InsurTechs and companies, also consultants. It really shows itself on Twitter and a little bit on LinkedIn, where they go about trying to get known and trying to get to know people in a dickish kind of way. Like, I'm going to punch everybody in the mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I get that Twitter's a little more edgy, you know what I mean? But I firmly believe that the way you get ahead in this life is by being nice to people. You don't let people push you around, but by being, let's just be nice and friendly, even if I don't like you. And from the InsurTech standpoint, it's like you see this with newer InsurTechs that come right out of the gate and start just really bashing their competition. Guys, there will never be an all-in-one solution from a technology standpoint in insurance. The only way you are going to be able to help the people that you are trying to help is if you work nicely with your competition. If you start out of the gate punching everybody in the mouth, they're not obligated to work with you. And even if you don't like them or don't like what Applied does this or what Vertifor does this or Hawksoft or NowCerts or whatever, like, you still need to play nice, because the perfect solution is something that works a little bit with everybody. And if you go about it in a dickish way, ultimately it's going to affect the people that you're trying to help, let alone your company. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have 2 things I want to share on this topic. The first is, You can rip Applied all you want. They're the biggest, baddest cars on the market. They're doing something right.
Yeah.
They're doing something right. Like this was something that was told to me back in the, like when I was on Agency Nation, and I felt like my role at Agency Nation was to defend the people of insurance, right? Like I took it to heart. Like these MIT dicks are coming in and they did some regression analysis in their 201 class, and they're going to tell us that we're all morons. And I was just like, rah, 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 rah. And I would get on some of the big guys about like, why aren't you doing more? And
we all have to some
and
degree,
I had, yeah. And I had actually had someone from Applied who I respected a lot, not being a jerk, call me on the phone and say, hey, heard what you said, understand where you're coming from, but you got to realize we make bank. Like the biggest agencies use us, and there's a reason. There's a reason they use us. You can not like us, get that, but guess who really doesn't like us the most? The small guys who probably shouldn't be using us anyways. All the big guys use us, and for the most part, they're making tons of money too. He's like, we're doing something right. And I think my point in saying that is that, like, instead of trashing all these companies, maybe there's something you can learn from them. Maybe there's
100%.
something in their sales process and the way they build their moat. Maybe they're going to let you plug in someday and take your business to a whole nother level. Maybe they're going to buy you. Guess what you don't get if you're trashing all these companies all this time? You're not getting a buyout offer. They're just going to go to the next guy. They're never going to, you're never going to exit.
There was a company that was doing this recently, and I'm like, you are literally like keeping the person who's most likely to buy you and pay top dollar from doing that. Like you're only shooting yourself in the foot.
Do you think because there's a lot of great people that work at these big companies. Like we can put them in buckets. There's so many great people that work there. What if you want to hire one of those people and they're like, yeah, but you just spent all this time trashing the company that I helped build or work in every day. Like, I don't want to leave here and go work for a company that's going to make all my friends back at the company I'm leaving, like, think that I'm a jerk. And it's the worst way to go. And I'm going to give, for anyone who is an insurtech or is an agent who's thinking about building an insurtech product, I'm going to give you the number one way. I'm going to give you my secret. This is what I do, quite literally. This is what I do at Lincora now as their chief marketing officer. This is what I did at Agency Nation. This is what I did at Bull Penguin. This is what I did at Rogue Risk for the things when I was prospecting for personal lines only agencies that send us referrals. Here's the number one way that you connect with our industry. Help them feel like the rock stars that they actually are. That's the message. Because independent insurance is an incredibly tough industry with people who may sometimes look a little nerdy, but are absolute gangsters because this is a hard ass business. You have to be dedicated, determined. You have to persevere. You have to be smart. I just took Lincora through a policy form, 243 pages of understanding what they give, what they take back, how to define terms, right? Working through that process. This is a difficult business that you have to be intelligent to do. And yeah, we can bang on agents because they don't adopt technology fast enough and all these things. And some of those things may be true and they're funny to bust chops. But at the end of the day, I think the defining metric that I think classifies who we are in this industry, regardless of the role you play, is that independent insurance professionals give more to charity than any other professional class in the United States per individual, right? So
you know that for sure?
Take per.
Is that an actual statistic?
Yeah, I saw an insurance journal a few years ago. I'd have to go find it, but not total because there's just not as many of us. But per individual, we give more to charity than any other professional class, and that to me is a gold standard that we can hang our hat on. So if you want to sell products into this environment, how you do it is helping show people how you integrate and how you make them be more of the rock stars that they already are. Yeah. Telling them they're terrible, trashing the tools they use, telling them their processes are awful. None of that works because no one wants to hear that shit. And it's also not true. Our industry is not broken. Our industry is not broken. There are iterative improvements we can all make. There are ways that we can take our business in different directions if we want. Sure. But it's not broken. All these people that have damage in Florida, if it's possible to get them paid, they're going to get paid. And that's because of insurance. Yep. And that to me is something that just, it burns me. It's what I hated about Lemonade when they came out. This absolutely is absolutely something that kills me.
Let me say one thing real quick. I'm all for well-timed shade. but that can't be the only thing you're about. You know, like when I speak publicly at insurance conferences, part of my shtick is I make fun of some of the vendors in the room.
Yeah.
But it's more of a holding them accountable angle, not a you're a bad company. You should, you know what I mean? Sorry.
Well, it should be cheeky. It should be cheeky and fun, not like filled with visceral hate.
One of those speeches led to me getting a call from the C-suite at Vertifor about, we heard you said something about us at a conference. And I said, well, I've got good news. I film every presentation I do. I will send it to you. And I didn't even remember the joke. And I sent it to him. And he was like, he laughed and he's like, I can't believe someone was so upset that they would email the C-suite of the largest technology company in the insurance space about this joke. And I said, dude, it's 2023. People get offended at jokes. And I know who it was that did it. I figured it out. So I just keep that in my back pocket. But the guy told me at Vertifor, he said, I have said this.
Hey,
anyway,
hey, Ryan,
this is the best part.
Ryan,
These insurtechs, these new founders say this stuff. Like these guys don't like think their product is perfect. Do you think anybody at Applied thinks their product is perfect today? They're trying to fix it. They got the same code debt and legacy issues that everyone else gets. They're doing the best they can. Like, and that's not, I'm not trying to like, I feel like I'm like an Applied homer. I'm not. I've never even used one of their products, but I know too many people in that organization to think that they have nefarious designs. I just, and they all know the problems. Yeah, go ahead.
We got
Scott's raising his hand.
Ryan, Bradley, I got one thing to say. Okay. Number one, the only thing I hate worse than a Republican's a Democrat. And I say that because of this. Okay. Listen, everybody listen to the sound of my voice right now. Between Fox News and CNN and this satanic thing that we have surgically attached to our hand that is creating a confirmation bias between those two media networks and others, and then this algorithm through all of these social media platforms that is networked to show you what you want to see over and 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 over again. It is creating what once was a divide in this country and turning it into the damn Grand Canyon. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Number two, to the guy that walked up to you at the thing and said something about an insurance mafia. Let me say this to you, sir. I got 6 insurance agencies. I got 14 employees. I got a wife that needs my attention. I got a son that's a senior in high school. I got 748 freaking things going on at one time. Now, if you want to get your ass down to Pine Ridge, Alabama, and run a damn bush hog and a box blade all weekend like I just did, then come your ass down there. I'll put you up in a hotel, and you can come down there and work with me for a weekend. That's the only damn mafia I got is running a damn John Deere tractor about 3 days a damn week. I have no freaking clue, nor do I have the time to mess with anybody. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm agnostic. I don't care. We just had a podcast about a technology vendor two weeks ago. I said, all I've ever asked you people is one thing. Go try it. If you don't like it, don't freaking use it. That's all I wanted to say.
Scott, people would be shocked, and this is a compliment, at the level of
I don't know nobody.
The level of, I'm trying to think of the word.
Bradley texted me, do you know something? No, I don't know that
the
person.
level of how the level to which he is known in the industry, Scott is, you would be shocked at how little he knows about who doesn't like who or what company does what.
I don't deal with drama.
Fact,
I don't deal with politics.
I am often jealous of him in that regard because I know
don't do it.
You get to the point to where when you know everybody's business, you feel like you have to sidestep everything. Like, oh, if I do this, it's going to piss this person off. And he's like we got an email about ITC, and Scott called me. He's like, "What's ITC?"
I did not know what ITC was.
Anyway,
well, you know about it now.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to ask you is this ITC conference that was in Vegas, I guess, and it looked like it was kind of a big deal. Tell us about it. What did you learn out there? Was it cool? Was it fun?
Yeah. So they actually, back in January, they asked me to be the chairman of the board for putting the event together. So they have 10,000 people a year come to this event, and the most underserved market has always been agents. And I think that's kind of the natural progression. It makes sense. But they said, hey, we have all these investors, all these carriers, all these vendors, all this great stuff going on, and we just don't have agents and brokers. So this year they started 2 new tracks. One was ITC Agents, which, like I said, I was the chair of and emceed the event. And the other was a broker, which we're probably going to do some sort of combining of them, because in their mind, being non-insurance like people at our level, they saw brokers being like, we'll call them mid to large national brokers, and kind of boots on the ground independent agents, which is more our event, as 2 separate things. And I kind of let them know, hey, you know, there are differences, but there's a lot of similarities too. So we might combine them. Sure. That being said, dude, we had 461 agents at the event. That's not counting vendors or anyone. That's agent registrants, which I think is a big number for year one.
Vendors and their attendee count.
Yes, it drives me nuts when it's like, hey, we have 300 people coming and 221 of them are vendors. So no, it was a great audience. It was, you know.
What did you talk about, Ryan? What did you speak on?
So I only emceed. I did the first 10-minute kickoff. Gotcha. So I kicked it off talking about, you know, my message to agents. I had 2 main messages. One was similar to what I did at Soup in 2023 when I emceed, which was come out of this with one main thing. And the second was that there are just as smart of people sitting next to you in the chairs as there are up on stage. We're highlighting people. So the one thing that I want to give credit to ITC as an organization, and then ultimately how it played out in the event, was they were incredibly open to my suggestions and the suggestions of the other board members, which you guys are part of, that like how we wanted the event to run. So traditionally these events are just panel, which makes us all want to swallow a gun.
Yeah.
So one of the main things that I did was break up the panels. We only had 2, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. I thought they were both great. And the other thing we did was something that I hadn't seen before, but it's always been on my mind, was I called them mic drop sessions. 15 minutes, hard-hitting, rapid fire. So you come on, I introduce you, 15 minutes, hit one topic hard, next. So like we had Alexis Vaughn, we had Cyrus Joffrey, we had Gordon Coyle, we had Matt Namoli. We had, you know, I'm forgetting one, and I apologize, just because off the top of my head. But we had awesome speakers that people hadn't heard from, and it's just bang, 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 and people were loving it. Because then, once the speaker's done, they come off stage. Now during a break, they can connect with them, get more details. What are you up to? How do I, you know, work with you? Whatever. And I thought the format was great. I mean, there's tons of stuff to fix, improve, iterative improvements. But I'll tell you, for like. Their idea is a Super Bowl of insurance. Like, go to your big I events, go to your network or aggregator events. Like, they're not trying to displace any of those, but they want to create one event that brings the entire industry, from money, reinsurance, top level, big, huge, talking billions, all the way down to the people discussing how to write a $200 consultant policy. And they want to mash them all into one event. And the way they did it, I thought was cool. Tuesday was single track. So whatever you're there for. And then the next 2 days, you kind of launched out into the full main event. We're able to mix and mingle. And dude, I mean, it wasn't Elevate 2018, but it certainly was, I think, a wonderful event.
Nice starting point.
I was proud of it.
So there are a couple things on that. One is if Jason Cass ever does a 15-minute session, you're going to have to tell him he has 2 minutes. Because if you tell him 15, he's going to speak for 45. 2 is and I don't mean this as a knock towards ITC, but it's kind of funny that it almost reflects InsurTech in that agents weren't included and now agents are included, almost like the Lemonades and the Hippos. Sure. It's like they start and then they're like, oh crap, we actually have to do
it's new ownership is part of it.
Is it? Oh, okay.
So ITC was bought last year, and they didn't have time to put an agent event in to the last year's event because it was bought too close to the event. So this is the first full cycle that this new ownership has had. And, you know, these are, you know, and this is nothing against Weintraub and Caribou. They did a phenomenal job building ITC. I know those guys. great people trying to do their best, whatever.
Yeah.
This is like a pro crew. Like
Good.
these guys know events. I thought everything was done much more coherently. I thought that the flow was much better. The design and layout of, because 10,000 people is a lot of people. I thought the design was much more conducive. I mean, the convention center at Mandalay Bay, if anyone's ever been there, it's like being inside a small city. I mean, it's an enormous place.
Yeah.
I thought it was much more easy to navigate. So I'm thinking, they've committed to 3 years of the agent event. So there's going to be one next year and the year after for sure. Right. So just give it a chance to grow. So there's going to be 3 years for sure. And then they'll see from there. But I'm excited to help them.
Are they having it at the Mandalay each of the 3 years, or is it somewhere different?
It's always in Vegas.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's always at the Mandalay.
It'd be a fun event to go to.
I think it would help them to move it to some different cities every now and then. Vegas
I think they're just too ingrained in that environment.
There is room for a large agent event in our space. It's kind of like when I was going to say when who should not be named Elevate, because I didn't want to say that word, went away. It's like then COVID happened, and then all of these small events popped up, and we've got a million small events and no really like one big crescendo event. And I think there's room for it. It's just I don't want to be the guy who loses $100,000 4 years in a row to then try and pull it off. And I think the Soup guys have a very good opportunity to become that event. I don't know that they want to, but to me, that's the best event I've been to in the last few years.
Love the Soup event. And Soup event's a great event.
And so this one, obviously, I feel like they have the budget and the stones behind them to pull it off. But there's an opportunity for that. And I think, man, I've said forever, I think the Big Eyes should get together. I hate that the Big Eyes.
Hold on, Fred.
Get Ryan off the floor from laughing so hard.
Nothing against the states. The states are amazing. I love the states. I love working for the states. So if you work for a state, please do not get mad at me.
I feel like instead of each state Big Eye having their own event,
chip in,
which a lot of them are kind of lame. There's some good ones, but some of them
they're just a lot of them are small. They're dealing with small budgets.
You broke it up by quadrant and said, okay, all of the Southeast Big Eyes are going to put on one huge event. All of the Midwest and band together and can put something
in one
together.
central location.
I feel like that would serve people a lot better than what they're doing.
So
now,
I completely agree with you. I'll tell you, the Big Eye National has no ability to do it.
It'll
no
never
ability.
happen.
It's no desire, dude. I could tell you guys stories for hours about the hate that I received from the Big Eye National for putting on Elevate. I mean, I would get weekly calls from executive board members. I would get calls from the national employees. What?
You guys weren't affiliated with the Big Eye, right?
Yeah. So trustedchoice.com was partially owned by, or is partially owned by the Big Eye.
Why
so
did they not like that you did it? Because it took away from
because I did it.
Because it took away from their events. They felt that way, or
because it wasn't them, because I was showing them that something could be done if you actually put in effort and like give a shit. Like,
because you wear
a million
skinny
reasons
jeans and have a fade.
Hey, tight jeans and a fade is going to get you a long way in life. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
No, it was, I mean, to me, one of my biggest regrets is that I never got to follow through with my full vision of Elevate. I mean, I felt we did 317 in Milwaukee in 2017. We did 827 people in 2018, and we were just getting started.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just getting started.
Scott and I went to 2019, which you weren't involved in, and I was impressed. I mean, and obviously they were building off the momentum of what you had, and surely Sid and Joey did a good job with it too. But and then I kind of feel like you got out right in time because COVID kind of killed it.
Yeah,
not to say that
I mean,
you couldn't have.
Life works the way it's supposed to, but yeah.
Hey Ryan, I'm gonna shut this podcast down, but before I do, guys, the next Hanley's Hot Take, we're gonna record it tomorrow. Be out in a few weeks. Two topics I want to discuss. that one especially Ryan Hanley and I are going to get in a boat together and try to figure out why it is so difficult for you people to learn a new way to sell insurance. That is a big topic that I want to spend time with. That'll be recorded tomorrow, but it'll be out in a couple of weeks.
You're going to want to listen to it.
You're going to want to hear it. And the second topic, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. One of my best friends from elementary school is in Orlando right now. He's been a property and flood adjuster for 15 plus years. He's working 8 to 10 claims a day, then going back to his Airbnb, only flood claims. Now, I'm going to go back to the billionaires that we had earlier, the audio clip, and they talked about the federal government getting involved with these homeowners programs. And so we talk every week, and we talked Friday, and he said, Scott, I'm going to be honest with you, man. We'll be honest with you. I'm working 8 to 10 flood claims a day in and around the Tampa area in one of the flood zones. And I will tell you that the people that I'm getting flood claims from who have private flood insurance, they're doing better than the people with the NFIP.
Interesting.
In terms of claim payout, because private flood policies typically have a few more bells and whistles,
loss of use
that allows him to write up bigger estimates. So we're going to talk about that. So stay tuned.
Wait, Scott, did I just hear you say that capitalism works better than socialism? Is that what I just heard you say?
Brother, you may have heard that.
All
That's
right.
right. Hey, guys, you are listening to Hanley's Hot Takes, one of my favorite people in the world. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was telling Ryan to stay on for 1 second.
Gotcha. Guys, you were listening to the Insurance Guys podcast and Ryan Hanley, Hanley's Hot Takes, every other Friday. We love him. We know him. He's a great American. And as I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out into the big bad world. Become the mayor of your village. Write insurance. Make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband, for your kids' college fund, and your parents and in-laws that are struggling out there today. Go write good business for the carriers that you represent and the agencies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Love you too, buddy. Thanks, Ryan.
I love you.
Love you, boys.
I love you, Ryan. Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast and Ryan Hanley's Hot Takes, and we love each and every one of you, even the guy that came up and said something about me being in the mafia. I love you too, brother.
It's kind of cool.
You are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care.